This show can be found on Podcast DC, the new local app with hundreds of options in local news, health, and of course, of the DMV region. Download the Podcast DC app to hear all the Empire shows as well as the other great content.
Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Today I have on the legendary Rick Doc Walker, former Hog, former member of the broadcast crew who now hosts his own podcast. I found out more about what Doc is up to these days, what he misses about his old job, and we discussed the changes in Washington and where this team is headed. Doc is always great. You can follow Doc on Twitter at Rick Doc Walker. And again, you can check out his podcast. You can find where to get it over there. You can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about running back Antonio Gibson, taking a look at what to expect in 2021. I'm bullish on Gibson and have been for a while. I think others are too. Before I share my conversation with Doc Walker, a couple things. Former Washington running back Darius Geis had his misdemeanor charges of assault and battery dropped earlier this week. Charges of strangulation were dropped earlier in the year. He reached a settlement with the woman, and based on Virginia law, as long as the woman shows up to court and states in writing that her acceptance of the settlement, then the charges can be dropped. I don't know what was involved in the settlement, how much money, if there was even a financial arrangement. I know it sounds silly to say that last part, but I don't have all the facts. So while we can guess at what it was, I can't state for certain what it was. I was asked a few times on Twitter what this meant for his football future, and I honestly don't know. I also saw people saying that he should get a second chance. I don't think anyone, including the NFL, owes him anything. What I do know, they were on the fence about him here in Washington before they cut him, simply because they worried about what might happen with him. I've told you before, but it's worth repeating. Carolina did not have him on their draft board when he came out that year. Other teams did not either, and those who were on the fence about him certainly could have a different thought about him now, pushing him perhaps one way. Don't forget, he's been accused of multiple things during his time at LSU as well, all of which he's denied. But if you're an NFL team, would you take a shot at somebody in his spot? And he hasn't exactly done anything in the NFL because of those knee injuries. Another concern about it coming out were the knees. I haven't talked to 31 other teams about him, so who knows what all are thinking. But you look at his resume, and I asked someone from an NFC team about him, and the response I got back was succinct. Hurt and bad character, tough combo. The whole situation with Geis is a damn shame, and I'm not making a judgment on what transpired in this ordeal, but just in general. Obviously, I wasn't involved in any of this stuff, but I just know from a football standpoint, he had a lot going for him when he entered the NFL. Charisma, talent, could have been a star. And I remember thinking his rookie year, this kid produces, he's going to be a star because of the personality that he was showing publicly. Fans loved him during this first camp. They gravitated to him in a way they did with young quarterbacks. But it takes more than talent to succeed in the NFL, a lot more. I know people always say they don't want choir boys, but you do need people with good character who work hard, who are available. You need to be available. The Hogs used to practice in camp. And I remember Joe Gibbs telling me one time he'd go in the huddle, they'd have beer on their breaths. They weren't saints. They didn't cross lines, and they were available. That's why you must pay attention to the red flags as much as you pay attention to the talent. Talent can be intoxicating, but if that's all you see, then you'll struggle to put together a winning team. There have been guys who've come out in the draft before with red flags. Tyrann Mathieu, he had him. He's been a star, but not everybody's like that. So that's why you have to pay attention to him. And when you're putting together a team, it does matter. And again, talent alone doesn't cut it. Next topics, and last item, or actually two more items. Still sounds like former Washington right tackle Morgan Moses will sign with the New York Jets. It's not official. That's still the word. That's still the expectation. I've always learned, though, that things can change last minute for a variety of reasons. So until a guy signs, it's never 100%. But for those wondering, that's still the way it looks right now. Finally, one thing I'll be curious to see this summer is how Washington's backup defensive ends develop. I know that's a concern of the staff because they don't have great depth at defensive end beyond Sweat and Young. They clearly didn't want to re-sign Ryan Kerrigan. The feeling I got was that they felt his play lessened the more snaps he received. Maybe after 10 snaps or so, then the productivity waned. Then there was his age. But they did know what they would get out of him. And there are numerous question marks at the spot entering the season. So it's a little bit of a gamble that they let him go because he would have come back on the cheap. It wouldn't shock me, though, to see them add somebody here, whether in August or after final cuts, once they see how those young ends either have developed from the spring or from last season, see if guys like Tuhill or James Smith-Williams or the draft picks can provide any help. At that point, then you make a decision. But it is a question mark going in, which is why the Kerrigan one is worth paying attention to, how he does with Philly and the spot and how the backup ends here develop. We'll see. Anyway, that's it from me. After this break, I'll be back with my conversation with Doc Walker. Always love talking to him. I asked him if there's something different he sees in this team compared to others in the past that failed to build on success.
What's up? It's Mike Jones from the Football Jones podcast. I know you're enjoying your time with the John Keim Report, but once you're done, I want to invite you to come over and check out my podcast. Each week, we take a deep dive into some of the most pressing topics around the NFL. High-profile guests from the coach, player, and front office ranks, as well as the top league insiders. Check out the Football Jones podcast, another fine product brought to you by Empire Media.
Welcome back. Now here's my conversation with Rick Doc Walker. All right, Doc, so good to talk to you again. Before we get started, I need you to tell people, what are you up to now? Because I get asked a lot about you. So you got a few things going on. Tell people what you're doing.
Well, I'm doing a podcast, as are you. I'm on at patreon.com/Doc Walker. And like Netflix, like, Apple Music, whatever. It's a subscription site and with Steve Solomon. And having some fun at it, going into the second month. I love it because it's an entrepreneurial site. It's a venture, and that's what it is. We're talent. We're artists, whether you think so or not. But even if we make you laugh or cry, but it's what we do. And so I'm approaching it in that manner. And, it's not like government cheese. I don't pass this out for nothing. And so you want to come to the table, you got to go to a concert, you buy a ticket, put on a nice outfit and come in, and then be entertained. If not, then see you later.
And the thing I've always respected and liked about you is you always evolve. And you had a role with this franchise, and that role, you were no more, but yet you continue to evolve. And that's one of the things I've always liked about you, Doc.
Well, you don't get to pick your bosses sometimes, you know what I mean? They have to select you. The key is do the best you can and bring it. And that's what I do, and always can continue to do that. We understand, based on track records, about people that make good decisions over bad ones. And that's why track record is so important.
Yes,
so we'll see how it rolls out, but the beat goes on. And there are very few industries that people continue to pay you after they no longer use your services. That really doesn't happen. So you got to keep your skills sharp. I understand the game. I get it. And we'll see how it rolls out.
Did you miss doing the games?
Oh, yeah. I love doing games. I was able to transcend from doing college games in the booth. But I got so intoxicated by being close to the game. The only thing that replaces playing is being close to it. The booth doesn't do it. You're too far away. And now with new stadium designs, they ended up moving the broadcasters almost on top of the lights. They treated it like you were a non-factor. Even though you're calling the games, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, but they did across the board. So they're so far away, you got to have a telescope to see the game. But when you're on the sidelines, you feel it, and you also get closer with the guys because you understand the dialogue that goes on. You hear the game plan. You see corrections being made. Me and the snapper, kicker, and all my field guys, you're with them the whole game. And so there's a closeness that comes in. Also, you see the injuries, and you see it up close. So it's far more emotionally, you get so close. That's the hardest part, not having that, because it's not about being a fan. Right. At this point, you're connected to them.
You're in
You're
the action.
high-fiving guys. Guys get a touchdown. You're jumping, doing chest bump. I've done some of the dumbest things in the world because I wasn't planning it. It
Right.
takes you over. When you're on that sideline, being that close to the game, it's very, very hard to shake. And the fans, 3 hours early, talking, especially my favorite people are the people that work the stadium. So the people that are there in the bottom of the project, cooking, cleaning, setting up, field crews. You know it. You're there too. Same thing.
Well, it's
and
funny
that's a fraternity. You know what? The parking lot attendance, there's so much of it. Now, COVID, and because there was COVID and nobody was basically there, that was the easiest separation.
Right.
Because, nobody was there. It'll be rough to see it, but you don't know till you see it. But that's the way it goes. It goes from, high school to college to the pros. And there's a departure in every unit of that. It's like losing an arm, but it grows back. And then you go to the next one. But that's the key to it. And hoping that the product, because all that matters is the product on the field. Everything else is a throwaway. It's not like you were essential to the winning, because hell, they didn't win. But you do feel connected, as do all the people on the beat. And once you've been a beat reporter, which I was able to do from television for years with George, then you're there like you are. But writing is the ultimate to it because you put in the most time. And they give you the least access. I never figured this thing out is that you got the biggest job to do in the shortest space with the least amount of access, but yet people are concerned about the image of a team. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. But it is what it is.
What are you going to be doing this fall then?
No idea. Still working on it because there's no time. I'm just understanding what the new program is. And so you have to adjust to it once you just heard about it. So you go, okay, right. you gotta be, but that's the whole thing about life. Always flexible, always looking for the next challenge.
Well, that's why I said that's what I always like how you have approached it, because you talk about entrepreneurial. That's always kind of been you. You've got a lot of ventures that people have no clue about, because that's just who you are, and that's why you're Doc Walker and we're not. But that's always been who you are. That's who you are. And so
I'm from a very competitive marketplace. Los Angeles, California. I mean, California is just so competitive. When you train in that environment and you're in the job market and you're out there going, you first of all, you can't sleep late. I don't sleep late. I sleep standing up. So I got to understand what the next phase is and what I have to do. And I'm hungry to do it because I see it done so poorly that it's almost a sin not to get involved in every phase of whatever it is, because the bar is not that high. So that's my attitude, to go into an attack mode and get it going, and just hope I get a better product to work with. I just hope that, because really it's been a rough go.
Yes,
when
it
you're
has.
representing something that's not successful. So yeah.
It has been. I had beat reporters coming up to me. It was in 2019 and saying, "Man, I'm sorry you have to endure all this." Like, it's your job and you approach it a certain way. And no matter if they're winning or losing, I have one approach to take, because if you take an approach for when they're winning, you're not going to be around to cover it a long time. You're just not.
No.
But, I think we'd all enjoy, I think watching a better product makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it is. But you want that product to be successful. I've been so close to it for so long that you do internalize it. It'll be refreshing to have no ties whatsoever.
Right.
In that, and seeing how it alters. Hopefully it won't at all, but you don't know that.
Right.
Because I know when I see John Allen come off a field and I know that he's had two guys go at his knee, we're in Philadelphia. I mean, it took my breath away. I mean, I was like, when I see guys hurting like that, I hurt. You feel that about them. And I want to see what that feels like not to have that. I don't know, because I've always been that close to it.
Right.
It'll be interesting, and that's the exciting part. It's like when I covered, college for 22 years. When it was to me, because I love the prep. So when you're
Yes.
doing a game, that to me is not it. I enjoy it. It is something that I attack because I go, wait a minute, I got 5, 6 days to do. Are you serious? Because I was doing 2 and 3 games a week. So the volume when you go at that pace, one is no problem. But do you love the research? And I say to young people, even
I
older
agree.
people, if they're listening, do what you love to do. This never work. If you got somebody say, "Oh God, I got to watch Monday Night Football because I have the Patriots next week," that's how you approach it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm like, hey, I get to see. I'm watching the Patriots Monday night. I don't have to go through traffic. I don't have to sit in a stinky stadium. I'm seeing on my 65-inch screen. Life is good, and I'm taking notes and talking into a recorder. That's love.
Yeah.
But it's I can't speak for it, John. When we do this, if you have me on after it's all said and done, then we'll see how it comes out.
But you know what? It is funny though, because you do have to love the preparation. So even for me, like if this team is 3-10 on Monday morning, when I can get the access to the all 22, I'm sitting down and watching it because I'm still going to learn, because I still have to cover them, whether they're 3-10 or 10-3.
It don't matter.
Also, you want it to, it's just like a quarterback. You have to take the same approach, every player take the same approach every week. And the games become more enjoyable when I know going into that game, like, okay, these are 5 things I'm going to watch. Now, it doesn't always unfold that way, but I feel prepared and I feel like I can do my job at a high level. Let's switch to the current team. And I'm curious from your perspective, how you view this team after the offseason, because going to camp is, and we talked on your podcast about pads mean everything, but how do you view their offseason this year?
Well, I view it as being great because they didn't lose anybody. No ACLs, no Achilles. I mean, a guy can have he bench presses, 900 pounds that could cave his chest, and none of that happened. So first of all, get everybody to the marketplace. What I judge everything by is competence. Do they actually know what the plan is? It is up to the coordinators to develop a plan that they can comprehend. You don't get to draw just because you're capable of drawing. You got to draw what they comprehend. Otherwise, you're an ineffective leader.
Right.
That's when the offense or defense doesn't click with its personnel. We've seen that so many times. We're masters at that now. We know in Washington what not to do. What I'm looking forward to is seeing it done right. Like Jack Del Rio, I thought he reached a common ground with his defensive troops. I don't think they opened up warm and fuzzy.
No.
But I think Jack's communication skills played to his advantage. They bought in, and then they were able to excel. And up until the last game against the Bucs, okay, the world champions, they were admirable, okay? That was their worst performance, but it was in the biggest stage. So that'll fuel them. I think those guys are going to get after it. I'm waiting to see what Scott does with his offense and his personnel. Joe Jackson Gibbs, the best I've ever been around. And it only took him 2.5 weeks to figure out that we weren't going to be Eric Coryell. So I'm going to judge Turner based on his ability to adapt to his personnel, right. Not what he's dreamt about, but what he actually has in front of him, and then make it work. Because he's got the guys, I think, with the IQ to do it. He's confident enough to be able to make it happen. Now will he get a guy under center that will allow him to do what he really likes to do? The rest of it's up to the big uglies, the O-line, D-line, and I trust them. And so we'll see what happens.
With the O-line, how do you to me, there's a lot more depth there. How do you assess them?
Well, without seeing him in armor, I think the kid out of LSU, Charles, who was injured, he's a prospect, great-looking body, but we've seen that before. What I want to know is where Sheriff's mind is at. Are we going to go through this like we did with the quarterback in Minnesota or not? To me, this is a loose end. I hate loose ends. But I think they've loaded up just in case he does the Aaron Rodgers, they just move forward. So I kind of think we got enough talent that's interchangeable parts. Guard to tackle to guard, right or left. That gives them leverage, and they're going to need it because nobody stays healthy the whole year. But if they get some luck in that, Lucas kid, man, and Sharp, I could have hugged him because he improved.
He did.
He went from the junkyard to where he's in the showroom now. And that's why I give Coach credit. Coach Matt, he can teach. He gets results. It ain't talk with him. Roulier, 6th-round pick. This is where we're at our best. Mid-round picks that become diamonds. We're really good at that. Where we stink is the higher we go up. It's Russian roulette. You don't know what you're going to go.
Yeah,
you don't know. 2nd-round picks, stay away from trade it. Trade the seconds from now on. Let it go to some get 2 threes. I like it. Just nothing about this I don't like that I dislike, because we got the dancing bear back from Miami. We should have never let him go for $10 million. But again, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Now he's back. We got options. And that's what I think you go into. I don't know who will be the 5. I just know we'll have 8 that can play.
Right. And I think that's big, especially with a 17-game season. That's vital. I also know, like with Sheriff, even if his mind is right, he's shown in the past he's going to miss games. Now, if you have the right guys in there, whether it's Flowers or Charles or you have Wes Schweitzer, you don't have to. You're going to have he's tough. And like you're going to have a drop off after Sheriff, but it doesn't have to be severe, and you can keep going. You don't have to change everything if he's not there. So that's a good thing. Are you buying Ryan Fitzpatrick? What do you think?
No, I think Ryan is an upgrade from what they had, because their guy is out of football now. And as much as I love Smitty, but he's too hard to protect. So he becomes, as good as he was, he hindered my offense because I couldn't expand it.
Right.
So the other guys, they're never healthy enough to where I can keep going. What Heineke showed you was some oomph.
Yes, energy.
You're right. It's energy. I call it oomph because, wow. He didn't play like a guy, hey, guys, what do I do next? He came in like, okay, let's do this. That's what we needed. We needed a let's go do this. Allen may be just as good, but we don't know.
Right.
We know what Fitz can do. He's been on display every single time. We know that Fitz can keep you active. He can bring you back. But unless you have a running game with him, you're going to end up where all his teams end up. On the verge, but just don't quite make it, or get in and get right back out. To me, I'm a run guy. Philosophically, me and Woody Hayes got along well. I just don't believe that you can build a football team with trickery. I think it's bad for everything. I think that when your basis is that, hey, come hell or high water, we're going to be able to move the football way we want to. We dictate. We're not dictated to. That's philosophical. They can do whatever they choose to do. But I saw the Tampa Bay game, and I judged them by one game and one game only, the Tampa game. And because they earned the right to be there, and they were gutted. Okay, gutted. They could not get any pressure on the quarterback, and they ran the ball right down their throat. So that's how I start. To me, I'm not patting them on the back. I'm coming in and saying, okay, here's where we were. Here's the world champs. We didn't even come close. So who are we? What do we want to be? We owe them. Who I want to play? I want Tampa back. That's who I want. And then we can see. You guys can praise them and make them all pros and all this, as you do in the media quite regularly. Yeah, I hear it all the time. This guy's the greatest and all that. We did 5 sacks for it. What are you talking about? But, okay, we'll wait and see. I ain't seen nothing great at all other than 17. And so other than him, I'm really waiting to see who all these great people are and great players, because I haven't seen it.
Well, great. That if you have a lot of great players, you should have a great record. So that's what I would say. And, it's funny that you say that with the run game, because I was talking to somebody earlier in the offseason, and they mentioned, like, right now, he felt like because the way the line was last year is like they didn't have a bread and butter. What was the go-to run on 3rd down and 2? You can call this run and you're going to get those 2 yards. That was something he's like, they need the bread and butter stuff. So we'll see, like, if the line is better, like we think it would be, or more consistent and depth and all that. And then if Antonio Gibson improves, that could be that guy. Did you like watching him, or what did you think?
Yeah, no, I like all the receivers that played running back. I mean, those guys, they're not the problem. They did the best they could. I would like to have seen one hammer. Going all the way back when we had the former Heisman Trophy winner here, I wanted them to have one sledgehammer, and then they could have the crescent wrenches around them. But they had all crescent wrenches. So to me, that's predictable because everybody knows you're going to swing a guy, stretch a guy. You refuse to hit me in the face. You want to hit me from angles, and we're this. I want to be that.
Right.
So that's on them. And you know what? They got some good backs. They have Randy's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I like him. Hey, man, I'm pulling for him. But you got to show me more than you did against Tampa. Because that plan with your personnel, you were inferior.
We have seen, you and I have both been around a long time, to see teams here that have not lived up to the preseason expectations. And everybody listening to this is going to say, so have we, because it's been there. So there are now more expectations. And is there something different, do you feel, with this team compared to those in the past that couldn't do it?
No, because I haven't seen their team yet. It depends on who makes it. And when I say make it, not just make the team, but survive camp without being injured. You know, who's going to actually be here and what's going to be the approach? That I don't know. What I do know is that it looks like it's going to be the most athletic team I've seen here in a decade, just from an athletic standpoint. The question is, from a toughness standpoint, will they be that? Which are the playoff teams? The 12 team, the 15 team, which playoff team? And we've gone twice or three times now. The rest of them are garbage. So which one of those is this team going to take on? Are they going to come back as the defending Eastern champions with their chest stuck out and challenging people? And I won't know till I see the Giant game. And are they going to come after the Giants? Because right now, that's all I can think about after the Chargers.
Right.
They lost to them twice. He was swept by the Giants. And so, but to me, the Chargers, I'm worried because our people on our East Coast, you don't respect the West enough.
That's going to be a good team.
Yeah, but you know it. You're scared. Like, I'm frightened of it.
Yeah,
but these people, it ain't just the Chargers. No. Their quarterback's better than anybody you have on your team.
He's good.
There was 4 games that they gave away that would have put them in a playoff position. If they get their people healthy, you're coming up with a new right tackle going against the best pat down rusher in the league at that position week 1. So you can pat yourself on the back all you want to. All I'm telling you is that if these guys don't get as hyped for the Chargers as they would the Cowboys or Giants or Eagles, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. Because I guarantee the Chargers ain't lost no sleep about coming here to play them. That's what I want, an attack mindset to get the opener going. Because when you don't start off in the division, that's why I like starting in the division.
Yeah.
You can't lose outside the division. That's just, you can't do it. We have got to come out and win week 1.
What I like, what I've heard from Rivera is there's so much talk about competition that I think it plays to the not wanting to feel like, hey, we've gotten somewhere. It's more like you're still building somewhere to get there. And he told me the other day, like the phrase this year is going to be, now what? So as in, now what do? You did this, now what? Because you can't just, you can't assume growth. You've still got to take the same approach. So I think that's a little bit of a difference too, although it's not like Joe Gibbs didn't know how to do it. So we'll see. Last thing, Doc, and we've talked about this before. I think I know your answer. Do you have a name preference?
Yeah, the football team's fine. I'm fine with that. What I don't want to be is the Wizards. I don't want them to blow this and we end up being like a cartoon. Right. I'd rather stay with the memories I have of Burgundy and Gold and the Skins because it was so emotional. So, but whatever they do, it's fine. As long as the colors. See, I've been saying this until I've almost lost my voice. I didn't even know what the Crimson Tide. I didn't even know Al was the elephant was a mascot. I just knew Crimson Tide.
Right.
Okay. So what's wrong with Burgundy and Gold? And our mascot's the Hogs. And just move on. Because at the end of the day, what matters? Win. And then whatever the name is, the football team, the public tried to make a joke out of it, TV networks or whatever. But when you win, now that they're chasing champs, right. Less laughter going on in the background now, okay? And so just do it together. They kept the colors. I love the fight song. Make sure it incorporates our fight song. See, I still love the Wild Bunch, the Over the Hill Gang, the Pearl Harbor Crew, the Capital Punishment, the Hog, the Fun Bunch. Which is too much history to have that trashed out to become pilots. No, right. I got to be able to tie into the history so that the song, the band, I just got to hear that fight song. There's too many ways creatively to tie it into it. Fight for Old DC. And if we can keep some of that in there, that's what I would like. But I'll have no control over it. So things I have no control in, I spend very little time pondering about them whatsoever. It'll be whatever makes money right, as it always is.
Yes.
And that's really the only reason it changed. Not because it was derogatory, but because it became a financial impediment to the bottom line. And we all know that. So let's just be honest about it and figure it out. Whether this FC, the soccer stuff, whatever they decide, fine to me. They will always be the burgundy and gold to me, period. And so whatever they call them, it's fine. I just want them to be respected and not be joked on, because that pissed me off when networks would say, this team, football or whatever. Well, before you used to just call them Washington. What's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with Washington? I didn't understand that. But that was your colleagues that did that.
Yeah. I've heard all the same stuff. So there you go. Whatever. Doc, you're the best. It's great catching up with you.
I'm working on it, John. Always a pleasure to be a part of what you're doing. And hey, man, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. We'll be talking again down the road. So thanks a lot, Doc.
I hope so. All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, everyone. I want to tell you about a fun new offer from Monkey Knife Fight that can enhance any sports experience, whether you're at a game, on your couch, or in a bar. It's a daily fantasy sports league that is easy to play. You can sign up on monkeyknifefight.com using promo code JKR and play games such as More or Less. Will an NBA player score more or less than a listed point total? You can do the same in baseball. Will a pitcher have more or less strikeouts than a given amount, etc.? It's fun. And every Friday it's Home Run Derby. Bet on 3 guys who hit home runs that night. All 3 hit one, you share in the prize pool. Every week you can participate in their Eagle-Eye Jackpot based on the PGA Tour. Choose from any sport, from NASCAR to UFC and League of Legends. And of course, once football rolls back around, there will be even more fun prop bets. This is daily sports betting designed for the average fan to use their knowledge and have some fun. Sign up now at monkeyknifefight.com and use promo code JKR. That's promo code JKR. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Doc Walker for joining me, and thanks to you, as always, for listening. You've played a huge role in building up this podcast, and I never take you listening for granted. I'll be back with former Washington tight end Logan Paulson on Sunday. He watched some more tape of Jamin Davis and John Bass, and after that, he provides some great insight from me and you. Talk to you next time.